What's up, Mets fans, and welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. It's your boy CP. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the latest JD Martinez reports coming from Mike Puma and John Heyman. We'll talk about this very strange offseason as it pertains to the DH spot. And before we get into that, as always, make sure you hit that thumbs up. I appreciate the support in the podcast. Hit that subscribe button. The channel's almost at 500 subscribers, and comment your opinions down below about these latest reports. Do you buy into them? Do you not? And do you want to see JD Martinez in Queens in 2024? Let me know in the comment section before we get into today's episode as well. Go over to X, go over to Instagram. Follow me there for more Mets talk, for more podcast updates. At CPNYSPORTS is the handle all around. You know where to find me. Without further ado, let's get into it.
The shallow right field. Stumbling start for Stewart. It comes up as crossed to deep left pitch by Alvarez, and that's going to win 4 straight games for the second time in his. He's home.
All right, so before we get into the latest JD Martinez reports, I want to make sure you all, as viewers and Mets fans, are checking out all the latest content on the channel. This episode that you're currently listening to is actually the second video going up on my channel pertaining to the New York Mets. This was the first video dropped this morning surrounding Mark Vientos and Brett Baty, their 2024 projections, and a little bit more about how we should be defining their success in 2024 using metrics and not just upside and potential when we have some discourse surrounding these two players. Go check that out. The link is going to be in the description down below if you missed it. As soon as you're done watching this video right now, go over to that video, check it out. And also make sure you're checking out all the other live streams that we're going to be doing. I think we're going live to talk about a JD Martinez fit with the New York Mets tonight on the Mets Hot Stove Live at 7 p.m. Stay tuned to that on the channel as well. I'll be joining the Mets Roundtable podcast crew and talking Mets with Rob, talking all things Mets, especially as it pertains to the latest reports on JD Martinez. Okay, let's get into said reports. Mike Puma sort of breaking this news yesterday, quote unquote, saying on Twitter there's been dialogue between JD Martinez's camp and the Mets as spring training approaches. If the price is right, just maybe the Mets will bite. That is coming directly from Mike Puma of the New York Post and John Heyman, also of the New York Post, following that up, saying Mets are indeed in contact with JD Martinez, but no word yet on how close they are or how likely a deal is. Now, like I said, I don't want to jump to the utmost conclusions here surrounding these reports because, as you can see on your screen, there's nothing really of substance. We could have guessed, and if the trend continued all off season long, the Mets are doing their due diligence and talking to all of these free agents, and nothing should be changing in the DH category with JD Martinez, maybe even with Jorge Soler, whoever else is on the market right now that fits that bill for the DH. The Mets are doing their due diligence. Now, it's a little bit weird to think about why these players are still in the market, especially JD Martinez. You can see on your screen, has a lot of sample size to go with him, had a tremendous 2023. If you haven't checked out his numbers in 2023, make sure you go ahead and do so. With the Los Angeles Dodgers, I know that he only appeared in 113 games, but he had a great season nonetheless. 33 home runs, hit 271. OPS was near 900. I believe it was 893, which is phenomenal. Slugging over 570. RBIs over 100 at 103. Just a tremendous season with the bat nonetheless. And he is an all-star, as you can see at the bottom of your screen. 6-time all-star in his career and 3-time all-star in each of the last 3 seasons. Why is this guy still on the market? Obviously, age is a factor. I understand that. But you also have to take a look at and think about, from the perspective of the front office, what his asking price right now is. Now, there may or may not be competition for his services. I know the Blue Jays got their DH. They were talking to JD Martinez a little bit. They went ahead and signed Justin Turner to that 1-year, $13 million deal. The Angels have been kicking the tires from what I've been hearing about on JD Martinez. They still probably need a DH if I had to guess, maybe potentially. The Red Sox figuring out what they're going to do, whether they're going to re-sign Adam Duvall or not. There's a whole revolving door here surrounding all these external factors about negotiations with JD Martinez. And we can't jump to conclusions about what the asking price right now for JD is. The Mets have been doing their due diligence, obviously, and they've been waiting out the market, and rightfully so, in hopes of this JD Martinez price potentially coming down. We'll see what the eventual number is whether it's with the New York Mets or whether it isn't. I'm very curious. He is younger than Justin Turner. He is an all-star in each of the last 3 seasons, and he's coming off of a tremendous season in 2023, hitting 30-plus home runs for Los Angeles Dodgers. I want to see how his deal compares to that 1 year, $13 million deal that Justin Turner got. Obviously, Justin Turner plays a little bit more, appears a little bit more games, especially in 2023, than JD Martinez did. But nonetheless, comparing those two contracts, it could be pretty comparable. But we all know the type of hitter that JD Martinez is. What would a potential lineup for the New York Mets in 2024 look like with JD Martinez? Now, I've been talking about Mark Vientos and the writing sort of being on the wall with him moving forward as the 2024 DH. Obviously, there weren't any concrete reports surrounding JD Martinez and the New York Mets talking before last night and when Mike Puma put this quote up on Twitter that you see on your screen. But nonetheless, now we have substance. Now we have something to talk about in terms of getting that ball rolling. And now we have a little bit more of a picture on what a lineup in 2024 could look like with JD Martinez there. As you can see, there would have to be a lot of makeshifts if you've been paying attention to my podcast. If there was no JD Martinez in the picture and Mark Vientos was that everyday DH, I flirted around with the idea of having Brandon Nimmo clean up with that increased power or slotting Francisco Lindor behind Pete Alonso and kind of flip-flopping them in the lineup. But with a guy like JD Martinez, that proven power, that veteran presence in the lineup, that is going to be, or could be, I should say, potentially. I don't want to talk about it like it's a done deal because it's anything but. That would be your everyday protection for Pete Alonso in this sort of scenario if a deal were to go through. And this lineup looks night and day difference with JD Martinez in it than it doesn't. I know a lot of people are high on Mark Vientos. I'm high on Mark Vientos. I think Mark Vientos is a capable power bat. I'm not sure I'm going to forego a JD Martinez signing just to give Mark Vientos that opportunity. If you've been paying attention to this podcast, I've been questioning the Mets' confidence in terms of Mark Vientos being that long-term solution for them this entire offseason, even from the start. So if I had to guess, if JD Martinez were to be brought in, Mark Vientos would be a little bit of competition with Brett Baty for that third base spot. I said it time and time again. Mark Vientos' glove and what we've seen so far on the field, especially last season, does not make him a candidate to be a third baseman overall, but definitely not an everyday third baseman. But I guess if you want to have some competition for Brett Baty, obviously he has to prove himself as well. Don't just give him the job flat out. You can have that competition if you bring in JD Martinez. But nonetheless, JD Martinez, phenomenal season. Did strike out a lot. I will say that he struck out at a 31.5% clip. Mark Vientos, also a high strikeout guy. JD Martinez usually doesn't strike out at that high of a clip. That was very unusual for me to see on his Savant page, but that is the only knock that I can think of about JD Martinez in 2023, other than the fact that he did have knick-knack injuries, tightness in his groin, tightness in his hamstring, the whole lingering back issue that JD Martinez comes with. That is a little bit concerning as well. But like I said, you do have Mark Vientos on the roster. Mark Vientos, presumably in 2024, whether or not you get JD Martinez, isn't going anywhere. So you have that backup option on your bench at all times to be that DH in case something happens to JD Martinez. And like I said, if you're bringing in JD Martinez, obviously we'll have to see what type of deal he gets. But I figure at this point in his career, given the injuries, teams know that, given that what Justin Turner got, he's in line for a one-year deal. And as Nelson from Amish Country Mets fan says, there's no such thing as a bad one-year deal. If the price comes down and the Mets are willing to fork up that price for JD Martinez, I'm in the boat of saying bring him in those doors because this lineup takes a leap forward in terms of being that competitive lineup that we all want to see in hopes of getting a potential playoff spot, whether it's the first wild card spot, the second or the third. You take your guess. I think the Mets are out of the division. I think it's the Braves' division to lose. But nonetheless, JD Martinez makes this lineup a viable playoff contender like David Stearns has been preaching. Let me know in the comments section, yes or no to JD Martinez. Not only if you want him, but if you're buying into the reports at this point in the offseason that JD Martinez might potentially come to Queens on a potential, if I had to guess, one-year deal, let me know in the comment section down below. Do you want to see Martinez in this Mets lineup in 2024? If it's no, tell me why. I'm assuming it's because of Mark Vientos and you're high on Mark Vientos, which is okay as well. All opinions welcome. Hit that comment section down below. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Hit that thumbs up. And like I said, you know where to find me on all my social media handles, talking Mets all the time. At CPNY Sports, you know where to find me. Thank you all so much for watching the latest episode of the True Mets Talk podcast. We'll monitor the situation. Like I said, a lot more content dropping. If you missed any of the content, go to my description down below and stay tuned for the Mets Hot Stove Live tonight. Myself, Talking Mets with Rob, the Mets Roundtable podcast crew. If they can make it, we'll be talking JD Martinez and we'll be talking all things Mets at 7 p.m. See you there. Peace. Thank you for watching the latest episode of the CP New York Sports Pod. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, comment your thoughts and opinions, and use the lower right-hand button of this video to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.